All right. I don't know which one I want to use here, which mic. Hey! Thanks for coming out, man. So, this is exciting for me. You probably don't know who I am, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, and there's a point to it, so hopefully you'll bear with me. But my name is Jason Rink, and as he said, I wrote a book called Ron Paul, Father of the Tea Party. It's a biography of Ron Paul that I hope that you would go on Amazon.com and buy. And then I made a film called Nullification, the Rightful Remedy, which just released in last May, just a few months ago. And it features a lot of speakers who you'll see here tomorrow: Tom Woods, Stuart Rhodes, Sheriff Richard Mack, a lot of people who have been doing a lot of heavy lifting in the liberty movement for a long time. But what I want to talk about today is a couple of things. First of all, I want to just share with you that in April of 2007, I did something that would change the rest of my life. I Googled Ron Paul. Anybody else do that in here? And I don't know where I heard about him, I don't know why I did it, and it didn't change my life overnight. But what happened was, a seed was planted in my mind that would eventually expand and radically change my entire worldview. And I wasn't politically active in 2007. In fact, I was politically ambivalent. I was a pastor of a small church in Ohio, and while I could quote you passages from the New Testament, I could not name 5 of the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. I was a Republican by default because, you know, conservative Christianity was the culture I was a part of, okay? And so I had political beliefs about things, but I couldn't tell you why I believed them. I had a unexamined political paradigm. Can anybody relate to that? What does it take to start a meetup? Oh, 19 bucks? I got that. So I started a Ron Paul meetup in Columbus in 2007, and the rest, as they say, is history. And when I say that Ron Paul changed my life, it's not an exaggeration, because nearly every dimension of my life is different because of that. Where I live, what I do for a living, every one of these aspects of my life is completely different because I Googled Ron Paul, and because I did something. And I did a very small thing that was within my grasp. And so, why am I telling you all this? Why did I come from Austin, Texas, which is where I live now, all the way out here to speak at this rally? Well, it's because I believe that Ron Paul 2012, it's not about a presidential election. It's not about rallies or conventions or delegates or nominations or inaugurations. It's about the fire of liberty that burns deep inside every one of us here, and making sure that that flame can never be extinguished again. Ron Paul is passing the torch of liberty to you and me. So what are we going to do with it? And what we've got to do is we have to make sure that what happens with this movement isn't what happens to almost every other movement that happens throughout history. Because what happens is it starts with a man, then it becomes a movement, and then it becomes a monument. Somebody steps onto the world stage with the courage and boldness to speak truth to power, to challenge the establishment, to question the status quo, to turn over the tables of the money changers. Their voice of truth resonates through an empire of lies and reveals that the emperor has no clothes. That's what Ron Paul did. What happens when that man does that, or that woman, whoever it is people begin to stand with them. And there's a quote by Mark Twain I want to share with you. He says, "In the beginning of a change, the patriot is a scarce man and brave, and hated and scorned. But when his cause succeeds, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot." No. This film is about the idea that the federal government is not the final arbiter of its own power. That the federal government doesn't get to decide whether or not what it does is constitutional or not. The states do. The people do. And it's a truth that is rooted in the history of our Constitution. It's a truth that's rooted in the founding of this nation. The Declaration of Independence is a breakup letter. It's the most famous Dear John letter in the history of the world, where the colonists said, hey, King George, we want to start dating another form of government. We don't like this relationship anymore. And they nullified their relationship with Great Britain. And it led to a custody battle and a divorce over this nation. And do you think that those founders, after they fought that bloody revolution, after they crafted a constitution, after they put a Bill of Rights in there to secure our liberties, to make them evident, that they would have then handed all of that power over to that federal government they created and said, now go limit yourself, go obey the 10th Amendment? And listen, I don't want to shatter anybody's illusions in here. I don't think you have them, but if there's one person who still has it, the Republican Party is not going to save us. National politics will not save us. Here's the only strategy that I hear people telling me that I've got to adopt in November. What they're telling me is to elect a president so he can overturn Obamacare, who supported a top-down healthcare system in the state when they were governor, okay? Support Congress people who voted for the largest expansion of federal health care under Medicare Part D, that support the Patriot Act, that support the NDAA, that violate the Constitution every day because of the Republicans, and why? So that they can appoint more conservative federal judges like John Roberts. I believe that may be a flawed strategy, do you? And so what we're saying is we're taking it back to the states. And this film talks about the history of nullification, how it was used, that it is constitutional, that it is a tool still available to us, and we show how nullification is being used all over the country today to fight back against the federal government. The other thing I want to plug very quickly is a new project and a new film that I'm in pre-production with the Oath Keepers, with Stuart Rhodes. Who knows who the Oath Keepers are? I believe one of the finest organizations in the nation as far as what they can accomplish, what we can accomplish if we partner with them. So I just want to invite you to come over. We've got a table right over there and in the exhibit hall. Talk to us about the Oath Keepers. Come and check out this film, support what we're doing, and get a free bumper sticker. Anyway, that's my plug, okay? So what I want to do, though, is if you're out there and you want to make films, make films. If you want to make a radio show, make a radio show. If you want to write blog posts, write blog posts. But that's not everybody's role. But every one of us is called to reach our circle of influence. The people that are in our lives. We are to build relationships and evangelize people with the message of liberty. That is what we're called to do. We're called to take our gifts and our talents and our resources and put everything we have into making sure that this nation never ceases to be free. So I want to encourage you to ask yourself what that role is. You know, in conclusion, we live in the most interesting time in history that I can think of. I mean, the means of production and communication are at our disposal. They're at our fingertips. A cell phone, a laptop, and an internet connection, and you can change the course of history. Do you believe that? You can change the course of history. Every one of us has the power to change the course of history. Just by being here today, I know that you guys are ready to answer freedom's call. And I just can't wait to see what happens next. So thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Paul Festival organizers. Freedom!